Hi everyone, Queeveen here from the comfort of my kitchen. In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve, of course, is famous for being a night where people stay up until midnight, ringing in the new year. So, of course, it's a great night for astronomy. People are going to be up until at least midnight anyway. Of course, many people also wake up with the sunrise on New Year's Day to see the first sunrise of the new year. And of course, if you're staying up until midnight anyway, it will only be 6 or 7 hours until the sun rises. So you could always push straight through and to get to do both celebrations, ringing in midnight and welcoming the rising sun. We're going to take a look at the night of New Year's and maybe a little bit into early January as well. There are some interesting things coming up. If I don't get to those in this video, it will be the next video. But here we are as the sun sets, just like Christmas Eve, on New Year's Eve, there is Venus. Venus isn't at its absolute greatest eastern elongation yet. That will come a little bit later in January. But already by Christmas Eve, Venus is pretty far across the sky. You know, it's in the southwest, not even the southwest, and it will be in the sky for quite a while. Venus, as the brightest object, is clearly visible as soon as the sky starts to darken. Jupiter is a little bit fainter, but we can see here just coming up on 5 o'clock, 10 to 5, and Jupiter's already visible. This should be from the city. I think it is from a maybe a town or a village. It does seem a little bit good. We'll bring it down a tiny bit. Here we go. That looks like the kind of sky I'd be familiar with in Cork City, without any clouds, of course. Normally with clouds and a little bit of humidity, in the atmosphere can make things a little bit fainter as well, even if there's no obvious clouds. Some of the fainter stars like these ones, they would be very difficult for me to see from Cork. Now that the sky has gotten dark and we're still not even at 6 o'clock, we've got Venus, Saturn and Jupiter all visible in the sky. The square of Pegasus is directly above south, just coming up to 5:30, 5:45. The square of Pegasus will be right above the south and nice and easy to see. If you keep craning your head back, you will come up to the W of Cassiopeia, and of course the Andromeda Galaxy is up there, but it's going to be pretty difficult to see from the city. So we're going to keep pushing ahead, and of course we have to push ahead quite a lot. Here we are just coming up to 7:15, and we've got Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Venus, and of course Uranus and Neptune-ish, roughly over here. There are quite a few planets in the sky here. All we're missing is Mercury coming around to the evening sky. And of course, with Venus just reaching its greatest elongation, we've got the time to get that last extra planet into the sky. Maybe we'll get to see them all at the same time, although that is generally more difficult to achieve from here in Ireland than it is from locations closer to the equator. So Saturn and Venus there are gone before we come to midnight. We're just coming up to 10 o'clock, a little after 10 o'clock here, and there's only 2 planets left in the sky. So even though ringing in the new year, staying up until midnight, midnight is sort of the goal time for New Year's celebrations. Taking a look at the sun as it goes down, and a little bit later at, as I say, close to 7 o'clock, 7:15, that's when you're going to get the most planets in the sky. But even at Venus's greatest elongation, seeing Venus and Mars in the sky at the same time can be a little bit tricky. But yeah, here we are, pretty much. I'll get as close as I can without going over. I'll leave those seconds tick away another little bit longer. So here we are, pretty much at midnight, 1 minute to midnight. You know, I'm sure people would already be gathering here with just about 30 seconds to go until the new year. It will take a while, but we can see that very close to midnight here. We've got Mars, we've got Jupiter, we've got Orion, we've got the brightest star, Sirius. This is the kind of sky you will get to see if you are in the city. Of course, if you're in the countryside, you'll get to see even more. But I do want to mention fireworks. And I'll start with fireworks. Fireworks do cause a little bit of light pollution, but they do only cause, you know, a flash of light pollution. One of the big... Oh, I clicked it too early. There we go. Exactly midnight, just coming over into the 1st of the 1st, 2025. So here we are. This is how the sky will look. Fireworks do cause a bright flash. And even though that bright flash doesn't stick around for too long in the sky, you know, the lights are there for a couple of seconds and then they fade away, the bright initial sort of ignition of the firework, that is going to ruin your night vision. If you are watching a fireworks display, you will have to leave your eyes readapt to the darkness to really get a good view of the sky. Now, of course, in the city, a lot of the fainter stars will be blocked out anyway, but the extra light of fireworks will make even middling stars will become difficult to observe if there is a fireworks display going on. But fireworks displays are, you know, sometimes they can go on for a while, but generally they're pretty quick. Unless you're at a major organized fireworks display, you know, you'll get a handful of fireworks going up in the sky, they'll pop, they'll fade away, and that will be it. The light won't persist for too long. A drone show could be a different story. If there is a bunch of bright electric lights standing in the sky, staying there for quite a while, not only is that going to ruin your night vision, but that can generate a much more serious light pollution problem. Very often, as soon as a firework, you know, fades away and you leave your eyes adapt, stars are going to be visible. Or even if you are in a dark sky, if you're far enough away from the fireworks going off even reasonably nearby isn't going to raise the level of light pollution that much. Whereas the electric lights of a drone show can make things much more difficult to observe, and they can obscure an even larger part of the sky than most fireworks shows. But light pollution on one night of the year isn't too bad. The ongoing light pollution that we have all of the time is a much more serious problem. If you go out on New Year's Eve and you don't get to see the stars because there are too many celebrations going on, that's not as bad as going out on a normal night and not being able to see the stars because people are trying to advertise their building in the middle of the night, or somebody designed the street lights to point up into the sky instead of on the ground where people need to see where they're going. These issues are a little bit more pervasive. So even though I personally would be annoyed if I went out on New Year's Eve to look for Mars and Jupiter or to look for Orion's sword and it was obscured because of fireworks or a drone show, I would be bothered. But it bothers me a lot more not being able to see the Milky Way any night of the year just because of where I live. Of course, other people may have a different opinion. So here we are. If you're watching sunrise in the morning, we're here at 7:45. So of course, sunrise is quite late. We're past the winter solstice. The sunrise will start getting earlier and earlier. But here we are, almost 8 o'clock, and Mercury is visible and Mars is visible. So if you are going to be welcoming the rising sun on New Year's morning, that's going to be, Mercury is going to be there to be seen as well. We've got the constellation of Scorpius there. We've got Leo there. Virgo, there's Spica there in the middle, Arcturus, there's the Plough, plenty of nice constellations visible in the morning as well, particularly some very famous ones. Come back to midnight, there's Mars, of course, with Gemini. Jupiter is in Taurus. The brightest star and the brightest planet, Sirius and Jupiter in the sky together. That's always nice to see. You get to make a little visual comparison between the brightest, not the brightest planet and the brightest star, but a bright planet and the brightest star. Venus, of course, is there, so you can compare the brightest planet to the second brightest planet as well. We're going to head out into the countryside. I hope some of you are out in the countryside for New Year's, particularly if you travel home for Christmas. If you normally live in a city but visit relatives in the countryside for Christmas, it may be worth sticking around until New Year's as well, just because the sky will look quite nice. So here we are as early as 4:30. Light pollution is there as soon as the lights turn on. So in a lot of locations, street lights don't turn on until it is sufficiently dark. There is often a light detector with street lights that allows them to automatically tell when it's dark enough to turn on. But some street lights are just on timers. They just come on automatically, and they can sometimes come on too early. But generally speaking, if you're in an area with less light pollution, there's going to be less light pollution the entire time. We don't notice it during the day, and hopefully more lights are turned off during the day, but at night time things will appear that little bit earlier as well. And we can see here just a tiny bit past 5 o'clock. And not only do we have Saturn, Venus, and Jupiter, but we're already starting to see some of the Seven Sisters. Without the sky even fully dark, we can see almost as many of the Pleiades as we would see from here in the city in the middle of the night. And we'll keep pushing later. We can see there that still a little bit of glow in the sky. Altair is still above the horizon, but it won't be there for long. Mars hasn't quite risen yet, so we'll push a little bit further ahead. There's the glow of the Milky Way, and if you can catch it, that brief moment just after the sun goes down enough before this portion of the Milky Way sets with it, that's going to be as close to the core as you'll get to see this close to midwinter here in Ireland. There's our Andromeda Galaxy. There it is. So almost due south at quarter past 6, almost due south at 6:15. So nice and early time to catch the Andromeda Galaxy. There's Mars just after rising. Of course, to be practical, Mars probably won't be visible when it's that close to the horizon. Here we go. Mars and Venus roughly equidistant from their rising and setting points, or, Mars and Venus being the same distances away from the horizon on opposite sides of the sky. This is just coming up to 7 o'clock. There we go, just ticked over to 7 o'clock. And we do have a bit of that Milky Way. The Seven Sisters are very clear. There's Uranus. I'm sure Neptune is in there somewhere. There we go. There's Neptune. So on the ecliptic, on that arc, in between Jupiter and Saturn, closer to Saturn, the same way Uranus is closer to Jupiter on that line. We'll pull up to midnight. We won't waste any time. We'll pull up to midnight. It'll take another couple of seconds. Of course, midnight here in Ireland, if we're going off Greenwich Mean Time, midnight may be slightly different for you. Not that midnight will be slightly different for you, but what the sky looks like at midnight may be slightly different from you. If you're in a different time zone, of course, the time zone will sort of correct for it, but depending on where you are within your time zone as well. So if you are, there we go, if you are just at the eastern edge of your time zone, you're going to see, when the clock says midnight, you'll see Orion potentially a little east of south, if not due south. If you're in the very middle of your time zone, then you should see Orion pretty much due south. And if you are, like us here in Ireland, a little bit to the western edge of your time zone, like we are here in Ireland, then you'll see Orion slightly to the west. So this is how we're seeing it here. There is some slight variation depending on where you are within your time zone, and of course how your time zone works. Some time zones are a lot larger than the sort of standard amount. Some time zones get a little bit wiggly for the purposes of national boundaries and things like that. But here we are, midnight, ringing in the new year in the countryside. There's definitely some Milky Way visible. No moon at all. The moon is practically new. We don't have to worry about it. We're getting as dark a sky as we could possibly hope for. Orion is in a lovely position for its sword to be observed. And of course, because we're seeing these so close to midwinter, Mars and Jupiter are going to be significantly higher in the sky at midnight than they would be if you were doing this during midsummer. We've also got Leo there, nice and clear with those planets in the middle of the sky. Oh, zoom back out. I always have a tough time recognizing, that would be Aries, so we've got Taurus and Aries there. Some of even the very famous zodiacal constellations, they look so odd. Sometimes they can be a little bit difficult to recognize. So to finish up, we'll head up to morning time. We'll head up to morning time to see how long we get to see Mercury. And there's the summer triangle coming back around. So there's Vega, there's Deneb, presumably Altair will just be under the horizon. So for almost the entire night, the summer triangle was missing because we are in the opposite of summer. I guess that works as well. So here we go. There's Mercury and Mars well into 8 o'clock, 10 past 8, 11, 12 past 8. I'll say 10 past 8 just to give it a round number. Even as late as 10 past 8, Mercury is there, nice and clear and visible. Didn't notice that seam before, but there appears to be a, it's not visible all of the time, but there, that little line of white dots is presumably a seam in the image where this series of images was stitched together to form this kind of fisheye that we see. I don't know if that artifact is going to be visible in the video, but I'm certainly seeing it here. There's Mercury in the morning and Mars if you're up to watch the sunrise on New Year's morning. And there's Mars, as early as 20 to 8. but really it's so low to the horizon here, you would need a very clear horizon if you want to catch Mercury as early as, let's say 7:30, about 8 o'clock. 5 to 8, 10 to 8, if you're in the countryside, you will have a smaller observation window if you're trying to do this in the city. So it looks like I'll have to leave all of the interesting things that are happening in January itself for the next video, which will of course come out in just a couple of days' time. I do hope that you enjoyed this video, taking a look at particularly midnight on New Year's, but of course sunset, just after sunset, just about 7 o'clock when Mars and Venus are in the sky together. Not just midnight, but the other times of New Year's as well. They're going to look pretty good. If you did enjoy this video, please do like it, and you can subscribe to this YouTube channel if you'd like to see more content from me. You can also check out my website, queebeanscontent.ie, if you'd like to read some of this information, and hopefully I'll see you back here next time.